To another Voice of Nick show. We're doing more of our Posthomerica artwork here, and somebody's using a leaf blower right outside my window, so it might be a little loud, but we are moving. I think we're gonna add the wash, or the fill layer rather, to Agamemnon. Let's see. Yeah, all the line arts. Oh, no. The one thing we wanted to do was we want to add this one section to his drapery. So let's do this. And here we go. All right. Still a little bit difficult to get, small line work in at this size, but we'll do our best. Good. Let's just fix his hand here while we're this close up. Okay. So we don't need to, we don't really need to merge everything. Let's just take all of, that'll be these two, I guess. These three. No, these two would be in a group. We're going to turn that off, and we're going to put the horse in. Let's just turn the background on real quick. Confirm that everything fits. in the picture. Yep, it looks good. I like how they encroach on the border. And we might do a redesign on some of the border aspects, because I don't know if it's really going to fit with the work that we've done up to this point now. That's the thing, it's always like a living entity when you make these pictures, because sometimes when you add more detail to one aspect, then it kind of feels like you need more detail in other aspects, and sometimes you remove details and then it feels like other things are overdone. So it's always changing. What is this? That's part of this layer, huh? Okie. This horse is a little stretched out because he's like extending mid-gallop, whereas these guys are a little more compressed. But I still think anatomically it works. Okay. Now we're going to put in let's get the horse in its own section. We're also going to turn off the horse for now. Turn this off. We're not going to do this back leg yet because we're going to have to figure out how that plays into the layering system. This elbow is going to want some changes, but we'll do that when we're in the final stage here. Welcome, Azure Tundra, to the show. Little cup of coffee. Good morning to you. I got my coffee here. How you doing, Azure? We're getting in the fill layer for Agamemnon. I like our Agamemnon. I always think of him as like an older guy, which I think he probably is. But he is described as like a really fierce warrior. He's like he's always spoken about among the mightiest Greek warriors, which I never really know if that's them like flattering him, you know what I mean? Or if it's really him truly being one of the mightiest ones. Maybe I just think of him as being kind of like an older guy because that's how he's depicted in the Wolfgang Petersen film. But I like our Agamemnon here, because there's nothing saying that he has to be old. And if you think about it, not old, but older than like Achilles or Ajax would be. But if you think about it, when Helen was being sort of auctioned off at the time when, they were trying to figure out who was going to marry her, there's like a ceremony thing where they essentially flipped a coin and whoever won got to marry Helen of Troy. And when Menelaus won, he was among all his contemporaries of like Odysseus, and I think Ajax was there too. Like all those guys would have potentially also been her husband. So if Menelaus is roughly the same age as all those guys, then yeah, Agamemnon would be, I guess, this sort of around the same age as them as well. Look at us rationalizing. The flaw in that logic being that he would not have to be the same age as them in order to marry marry somebody who's the same age as them in those times or in these times. But we'll go with it. Yeah, that's the story, for anybody who doesn't know, the story of Helen of Troy, at least as far as how she got mixed up with Menelaus in the first place. Helen's father was holding like a ceremony where they were trying to decide who would marry Helen. This is before Paris. But basically he brought all of the Greek sort of heroes of the time came to, say like, throw their hat in the ring basically. And eventually it was like left up to chance. Like Odysseus came up with this idea that like, it would basically be like, there's different versions of the story. Sometimes it's like Helen gets to choose who it was. Sometimes it's like, basically like they drew names out of a hat, and whichever one you go with, the whole point was like, whatever the answer is, this was Odysseus' plan, like whatever the answer is, everybody there would pledge to uphold it and not be angry at the result, because they were concerned that, all of these guys might sort of like kill each other if they couldn't have Helen. So they agree to that. They agree that they would protect the marriage of whoever wins. And then what happens is when Paris steals Helen later in the canon from Menelaus, that immediately causes all of the guys who are in that room, which is basically every king of all the different lands, who end up forming all of the different Greek armies, every one of those guys is immediately drafted or like sort of like forced to go to war with the Trojans because that happened. So it's like a really interesting scheme, one of Odysseus' many schemes, I guess. I don't really know what he gets out of it, Odysseus, but it certainly caused a lot of things to be set in motion. As you're saying, I love watching the old movies with stop-action creatures fighting with human actors. Yeah, like Ray Harryhausen stuff. Those are some of the best. Clash of the Titans is great, but Jason and the Argonauts is really, really still great. I just watched it recently because of our, if you remember the Metal Gear Solid 3 watch list, where Paramedic recommends movies to you, and she recommended Jason and the Argonauts, so I watched it for that. And that movie is incredible. I love that movie. So this is all of our figures. Everything's looking good. Odysseus is a little shaggy on the right side here, so we're going to fix that. Or not Odysseus, Agamemnon. We're going to fix a couple of things there. Let's also, okay, so we'll leave the black layer on. We're just going to change a couple of things. As you're saying, interesting. Yeah, the Greek mythology is always, there's always a lot of stuff going on. It's kind of interesting how similar the Greek myths were to like modern day superhero movies in a lot of ways, where it's like this big sort of interconnected universe where there's like crossover events and stuff. So like it'll be like, oh, Jason is like bringing together this ship full of guys to go on a journey or whatever with the Argonauts, and it turns out Hercules is also with him, and so then it like becomes this like weird crossover event with Hercules and Jason. I really appreciate that kind of stuff. Yeah, the Greek myths were the original Marvel movies before they had movies. We need to do something, because if you do this, then his there's nothing to like outline his facial hair, but we're gonna thin it out a little bit. Video Beastie, welcome into the show. Good to see you, man. It's Brian. I recognize that Beastie username anywhere. Welcome in. How are you, man? What are you up to? Is there saying there was one where skeletons came out of the ground to fight? Yes, that was Jason. That was Jason and the Argonauts. That is kind of like the climactic, probably my favorite. I think it's a lot of people's favorite battle, but it's definitely mine. Of Harryhausen's effects. It's so impressive, the skeleton fight. Let's see, we want to fix his arm here. Let's do this by cutting out of the fill layer. Yeah, I don't really like the shape that we got here, so let's kind of make some changes. We can cut out of the fill that we've drawn and then build it back in. So let's first remove whatever outline there is. VOBC is saying, every time I see you on Twitch, you're doing a new skill, a new life skill. last time you're speaking Japanese. But we're still doing that. We're up to, I think, like 1,100 days on Duolingo on here. But yeah, I guess that's my Twitch is just an excuse to indulge in different life skills. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, this is the illustrations we're doing for a book that I'm publishing, where it's a Greek mythology book. I didn't write it. It's like my own illustrated and annotated edition of a classic Greek story. So I'm pretty excited about that. We're getting near the finish line on it. Okay, so that guy's pretty much good. Let's do... I think everything else is good to go on him. So now we're going to take this. Let's turn off the background. And we want to get our borders in. VOBC say, I expect to see you IRL streaming your astronaut training next. You know, that's not a half bad idea. We are, speaking of IRL streaming though, inspired by this project actually, I am going to be IRL streaming in Greece next month. So that's halfway to astronaut training. Going halfway around the world, then next step is going entirely outside the world into outer space. I'm like the Fast and Furious franchise. I'm just working my way towards outer space. Okay, so these borders are a little bit not detailed enough, so let's come up with a new design for that. I kind of like this thing. It's kind of cool, but this I don't think really works that well. And so you guys can see here that we just deleted the outline part of this because it's going to be black anyway, so you can't see what it is. And so it looks weird here, but when there's black in the background, it works. BBC saying, are you going to PAX this week? No, I haven't been to PAX in a while, but that was like my favorite video game event. I really would love to go back. Are you going? The old Penny Arcade Expo. Is that PAX East or West for that? Or South? I think they have 3 PAXs now. And they have an Australia one, I think. PAX East? Oh, first time. Nice. Oh, you're going to love it. Yeah, that was always... I always loved PAX. Out of all the video game events. PAX and Indiecade, too. Which I know you know. Let's see here. I'm going to look at some references for these athletic pictures. The athlete pictures don't usually have border designs, so I'm not really sure what we're going to do for that. They usually just have like a solid color, but I don't think that would work for this. Video VC saying we would have gone to E3, but LA decided not to permit it. Oh, geez. That's a bummer. They just blocked you. Yeah, well, it's good that the conventions are open again, though, because they were, you know, with all the quarantine stuff, it wasn't really possible to do that, and it's definitely a very fun part about covering video games. So let's just have a line here. We'll start designing something. Let's get rid of this. Well, first, hold on. Let's take this, duplicate it. Do this. Video VC saying I'm half expecting to have COVID again by the time I get back, but YOLO. Yeah, I got COVID during the Omicron outbreak or whatever, when it was like really contagious at holiday time. It was very hard not to get it then, but we actually did, you know, I thought we did a pretty good job, I guess not a good enough job of staying away. Like, we didn't actually like meet up with, even though me and my brother flew back to New Jersey like for the holiday, we didn't meet up with any of our family members or anyone. We like canceled our Christmas party. Like, we were very safe about it because it was like when we flew out that the outbreak started like really happening. But it didn't avail. We still got sick. But yeah, now I got the 3rd shot and all that stuff, so I figure I'm a little safer. So best of luck to you. Yeah, I guess conventions are always kind of like, I mean, you've been to many a convention, as I know. I've been with you, but they, you know, they're kind of famous for having like sicknesses. Not having sicknesses, but like you get like the flu or whatever, or a cold after you come back from a convention or something. So stay careful. The obesity saying we were OCD with Christine being pregnant again and the newborn, but wound up getting it while she was 8 months pregnant last August. Wow, that's pretty intense. Yeah, I'm sure that was like very trying time to be sick. Jeez. So we want a little bit of this kind of irregularity to the line, which is why we're freehanding it. BC saying it. I was better after a week. She wound up in the hospital and almost died from it. Wow. Jeez. That is very scary. Man. Yeah, everybody gets that stuff differently. And the same with like getting the vaccines too, where I got really sick at first and my brother didn't get sick at all when he got his. And then when we got the booster shots, he got really sick. It was almost like being overdue for it or something. Like, oh man, now I'm paying for not getting sick the first time. Okay, so that's this border section. Now we gotta come up with a design for this. What's a design we could do for... I'm gonna look at my borders ref file. Let's open a different reference for frames. We have VC saying, but all good and more fun news, how long have you been drawing? Well, I went to school for fine arts, not really like this type of art, like illustrating, but for like oil painting and stuff through college. I switched, right before I met you actually, I switched from the fine arts program, and then I went into film. But this project is really new for me because I don't do anything like with outlines and stuff. You know, I was doing like paintings with like only light and shadow and like no lines. So this is like a totally new thing for me. And I've been researching a lot of Greek art and, you know, like taking pictures at museums and reading books and stuff. And it's been a lot of fun to learn that stuff and also just to try and do this new type of art. And so this project has been going, at this point, I think it's exactly a year now. And I'm trying to wrap it up this month, just to get the book out the door. It's a whole thing, because I'm like not only the editor of the book, like the text of the book, but I'm also the illustrator, and I'm writing an intro and illustrator's notes, and I'm making the audiobook version of it as well. So it's like a big project for me, and I'm glad to be kind of getting close to seeing it through. You know, it's getting there. But it's pretty good if we did. Okay, so if we did, let's see what our old design was. The old thing was like these dots, and it just kind of looks too low detail. Like it would work if it was small, but the dots would be too large. So I think instead if we had I don't know how we would do it. I think instead of having this double layer thing, we're gonna have one that's like, let's try and test this out right now. So we would have the main design on top, which would be, let's just do a quick test. So we're gonna just turn off the guides, make it very rough. Why is this? It looks like the guides are still on. Oh, they are. So if we had, you know, our classic square thing, we did this, and then we did, what else I want to do? Oh, good call, VC. Voice microphone. Is that better? I don't think so. Alright, we'll probably have to call it then. I'll see you guys next time.